Hello, everyone, and welcome to our channel. Today, we're diving into one of the most chilling and mysterious true crime cases of the 20th century, the haunting story of the List family murders. This is a case that shocked an entire community and left a mansion filled with secrets that would go unsolved for nearly 2 decades. If you're a fan of true crime, horror, and the dark mysteries that lurk in the shadows of ordinary life, you're in the right place. Get comfortable, maybe turn on a light, and join us as we explore every eerie detail of this unforgettable story. And before we get started, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming deep dives into more spine-chilling cases. Now, let's get into the story of the List family murders. The year was 1971. In the small, tight-knit town of Westfield, New Jersey, the List family mansion stood as a beacon of American success. Towering over the neighborhood, it was an imposing Victorian house, filled with ornate woodwork, towering ceilings, and antique furniture. Passers-by saw a well-kept property from the outside, but inside, the family was haunted by secrets that would lead to one of the most infamous family murders in American history. John Emil List, the patriarch, was a stern, reserved man with deeply religious views. An accountant by profession, he was as meticulous with his beliefs as he was with his numbers. He was married to Helen, who had 3 children from her previous marriage. Together, they had 3 children of their own, Patricia, Frederick, and John Jr. The List family seemed like an ideal, upper-middle-class family, living a life of comfort and Christian values. But beneath this respectable image lay a troubled existence. Helen suffered from a debilitating illness, later discovered to be tertiary syphilis, which she had contracted from her first husband. Her illness went untreated for years, leading to erratic behavior, mood swings, and increasing reliance on alcohol. She had grown distant from her faith, often questioning the values that John held dear. This alienated her from John and made her more dependent on him, causing him to feel increasingly trapped and isolated. The children were also a source of concern for John, especially Patricia, his 16-year-old daughter. She had recently taken an interest in acting and often talked about a future in the arts. To John, this was a sinful, secular pursuit that would lead her away from God. Patricia's fascination with witchcraft, which she often discussed with friends, deeply disturbed her father. He believed her soul was in grave danger, and the more he saw his family drifting from his values, the more anxious he became. John's own troubles were mounting. He lost his job as a vice president at a bank, a devastating blow to his pride and sense of identity. For months, he kept this secret from his family, pretending to go to work each day. He would leave the house in his suit, head to the train station, and spend hours reading and planning his next steps. As the family's finances dwindled, John's desperation grew. He had to dip into his mother's savings to keep up the facade, but he knew that they were on the verge of financial collapse. His fear of poverty was rooted in his past. During the Great Depression, John's family had suffered greatly, and he had vowed to never let that happen to his own children. Yet, here he was, failing to provide. In his mind, he was watching everything he held dear slip away. John was tormented by the belief that his family was not only financially doomed but morally as well. Slowly, an unthinkable plan began to take form in his mind. John believed that the only way to protect his family's souls and spare them from suffering was to kill them. It was, in his twisted mind, a merciful act, a way to ensure they would reach heaven before the secular world corrupted them completely. The morning of November 9, 1971, was cold and gray. John had planned every detail meticulously. He knew the schedules of his family members down to the minute. He made sure they would be isolated one by one, so he could carry out his plan without interruption. His first victim was his wife, Helen. She was drinking her morning coffee at the kitchen table, unaware of what was about to happen. John approached her from behind, holding his .9mm handgun, and without hesitation, shot her in the back of the head. She died instantly, slumping over her coffee cup, blood pooling around her. Next, John climbed the stairs to his mother Alma's room. Alma was 84 and frail, living in a third-floor suite in the mansion. She was the only person he felt a trace of guilt about. She had supported him, both emotionally and financially. But he reasoned that she was too old and fragile to survive alone. As she greeted him with a smile, unaware of the horror unfolding below, John shot her in the head. Her body fell backward, and he gently closed her door, leaving her alone in the darkness. Afterward, John went about the chilling task of cleaning up, ensuring that no bloodstains would be visible in the areas his children would walk through. He calmly ate lunch, preparing himself for the murders that were yet to come. In the afternoon, Patricia and Frederick returned from school. John greeted them at the door, his face betraying no hint of the carnage that had already occurred within their home. As they set their bags down, he took them by surprise, shooting each in turn. They had no time to process what was happening, no chance to scream. Finally, John Jr., his eldest son, arrived home. This was the hardest moment for John. Jr. was the one he felt closest to, the son he believed could carry on his legacy. But John's twisted ideology wouldn't allow him to leave anyone behind. John Jr. fought back, perhaps realizing what was happening, and his father shot him over and over until the life drained from his body. The gunshots echoed through the empty, darkening mansion. When all was done, John carefully laid each of his family members' bodies on sleeping bags in the ballroom. He placed them side by side in a grotesque, ritualistic display, as if they were all sleeping in peace. The only exception was his mother, whose frail body he left in her room. Once he had arranged the bodies, John cleaned himself up and went through a methodical process of erasing his family's existence. He wrote letters to their schools, employers, and acquaintances, informing them that the List family would be traveling for some time and wouldn't be in contact. Then, he turned on all the lights in the house and set religious music to play on repeat. In his mind, this final act was one of purification. With everything in place, John calmly left the mansion, locked the door, and vanished into the night. For nearly a month, the lights stayed on in the List mansion. Neighbors grew suspicious as they noticed the house was too quiet, too still. Eventually, police were called to perform a welfare check. When they entered, the first thing they noticed was the overwhelming silence. Then, in the grand ballroom, they found the bodies, cold, decaying, and horrifyingly lined up in a row. It was a discovery that would haunt every officer on the scene. The letters John had written provided them with his confession, but there was no sign of him. Investigators were left with only questions: why had he done it? Where had he gone? Would they ever find him? John List seemed to have vanished without a trace. For the next 18 years, the mansion was left to decay, a grim monument to the horrors that had transpired within. Locals began to believe the place was cursed. Strange occurrences were reported: lights flickering in empty rooms, footsteps echoing down the halls, and the faint strains of organ music late at night. The mansion itself was eventually set to be sold, but in a bizarre twist of fate, it caught fire and burned to the ground. The source of the fire was never determined, but rumors circulated that it was a punishment for the evils committed there. Some locals whispered that the spirits of the List family still haunted the site, unable to move on. Despite the nationwide search, John List evaded capture for nearly 2 decades. He had meticulously erased his past, moving across the country under the assumed name of Robert Clark. He remarried, joined a church, and worked as an accountant. By all accounts, he had become a new man, seemingly free from guilt or remorse. But in 1989, America's Most Wanted featured the case of the List family murders, with a reconstructed clay bust of what John might look like after so many years. The bust was terrifyingly accurate, and when it aired, a former neighbor recognized him and called the FBI. The arrest shocked everyone. List had been living an ordinary life, hiding in plain sight. During his trial, he showed no remorse, maintaining that he believed he had saved his family's souls. His chilling calmness and unrepentant nature unnerved even the most seasoned courtroom observers. John List was convicted of 5 counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison, where he died in 2008. When asked why he had committed such monstrous acts, he claimed it was to save his family from financial ruin and eternal damnation. In his mind, he believed his actions were justified, a testament to the darkness that can fester in a mind twisted by desperation and a warped sense of righteousness. The List family murders remain a dark chapter in true crime history. It's a story of a man consumed by pride, religious delusion, and financial despair, a story that serves as a haunting reminder of the terrifying potential for darkness that can lurk within the human soul. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you found this deep dive into the haunting case of the List family murders both chilling and thought-provoking. It's stories like these that remind us of the darkness that can sometimes hide behind closed doors. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more mysteries, true crime, and horror content, please give us a like and consider subscribing to our channel. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you'll be the first to know when we upload more cases like this. Thanks again for watching, and stay curious, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next one.